Also, another example that I want to mention is with Ken, you can option select into Ultra 2, and if they backdash, they eat that whole Ultra. I mean, no matter what character, there is going to be option selects that you can find, but it's going to be up to you to figure out exactly which move to use.
Of course.
As far as anti-backdash options, you want to pick a move that will catch the backdash of that character. See if there's one that works with every character. If it works on Rose, probably works on everyone. A move that, a special move in Ultra or something that moves horizontally, so that if your crouching light kick or crouching light punch isn't blocked, that you'll go through and you'll catch them at the end of their backdash.
Okay, so let's get into our final point, which is OS throw teching.
Right, and this is something that Daigo does all the time. In fact, there was a recent video of Daigo playing as Ken against GamerV online, where you can, with the input display on, you can see him OS throw teching as GamerV is close to him. But OS throw teching is also very popular against dive kick characters, Ken and Rufus. But in a nutshell, an OS throw tech is an option select where you not only tech a throw, but you also stick out a normal. And with the idea being that this normal will stop them from walking forward, or it'll stop them from doing another dive kick, or from doing something too slow or too risky. I'll give you one specific example here. Let's consider Cammy versus Juri. Cammy, after a cannon strike, she can threaten a throw, or she might threaten another cannon strike. Juri, if she hits, while she's crouching, she hits throw tech, and also hard punch at the same time. She'll get a crouching hard punch if the throw didn't happen. But if the throw did happen, she'll tech the throw. Now, what Juri is assuming here is that if the throw didn't happen, Cammy's going for another instant cannon strike. And if she does, Juri will hit her out of the air with her very nice crouching hard punch. Now, the very simple way for Cammy to beat that is for her to do neither and just attack. Because if she attacks, the crouching hard punch will come out, and she can hit the startup, get a combo, and go for the same mix-up again. Right, so I mean, if the Cammy player is going to throw again or do a cannon strike, yeah, an OS throw tech will work there. But if not, then not, which is why you need to be careful with it. Also remember that the throw tech won't work if Cammy slightly delays her throw, because at that point the hard punch comes out, and at that point you're not taking the throw anymore. And the very similar example, which is basically exactly the same, is Ryu versus Rufus. This happened at EVO quite a bit. Daigo did this against Rikio. Alex Va, I know.
Isn't Ryu a character with good? Isn't he good at everything?
More or less.
Has a good risk reward. Is that right?
Like, he can do everything. Like, that's the thing. Like, not every character can do everything, and that's why Ryu's good. But you might say that his weakness is that he can't do anything great.
Okay.
He can do a lot of things really good, but he does nothing great.
Okay.
But he's still a very solid character. And now I'm going off track, so...
Sorry, that's my fault.
No problem.
Let's keep going.
But Ryu versus Rufus. Ryu blocks a dive kick, and he thinks that Rufus is either going to throw or dive kick again. He can do a crouching throw tech and medium punch at the same time. The idea is, if Rufus goes for the throw, he'll tech it. If Rufus goes for another dive kick, Ryu will punch him out of the air with crouching medium punch. He could do crouching fierce as well. I see lots of Ryus do crouching medium punch, so that seems to be the good one. I personally would use crouching fierce, but that's neither here nor there. And so with that one button press of light kick, light punch, and medium punch while crouching, he can cover the throw and the other dive kick. But of course, Rufus can beat this by doing neither and doing the close short, close fierce, hard tornado combo. But that was a little too specific. As long as he doesn't dive kick and doesn't throw, there are ways he can beat it. He could just slightly delay a throw, and he'll catch the startup with a crouching medium punch, or he could just do any regular attack. A regular attacker catches the startup of that crouching strong. If you're getting beaten by OSs, really what you need to do is imagine what the OSs beat and then do none of those, is how it's going to work. And that's how you can beat OSs. And so don't think that OSs are, a cure-all, or that there's a particular OS that, destroys a character. I mean, despite the Adon Honda example, despite the the OS throw example against Abel. Despite those, it's not really hard to counter OSs. It's simply a matter of, I'm pretty sure you're doing an OS, so I'll just do the thing that prevents it.
So fantastic. We've talked about option selects, and you've given us some really great specific examples. So is there anything else that you want to tell us? Any final thoughts for us tonight?
Well, I hope that the fact that I went to drama school is not going to be used against me in the future.
No, I hardly think so.
I was probably asking for that, but as far as option selects go, really just the final thought is that they are a highly useful thing in Street Fighter 4 in particular, but you don't want to depend on them. You don't want to make your entire game around option selects because they are kind of execution heavy. You're going to have to practice them, and it's always possible for you to miss them. If you watch that Gamer B. Ross match, you can see him going for option selects and then failing a few times, or at least that's what I want. Like, he did quite a few jump in normals that got hit by EX Headbutt.
Right.
Nobody's perfect. Option selects are not perfect. At the end of the day, you still have to play a psychological game if you want to beat your opponent. An option select just cuts off an extra option. Use them where they're useful, but don't rely on them because you can't form a game around them. You really can't. You just have to be good at the game. And if you want to get better at the game, well, this is episode 6, so there's more to cover.
Perfect.
So,
Okay, so...
questions and answers.
Yep, let's get into questions and answers.
Yes, my favorite part.
Okay, remember that you can send in your questions to Juicebox at juiceboxable@gmail.com.
Yes.
All right, so...
Also, you can send me questions on Twitter.
Oh, yes, we're also on Twitter, Juiceboxable, right?
Yeah, twitter.com/juiceboxable.
Yeah.
Or, you could just put @juiceboxable.
Of course. And you're always tweeting, aren't you?
All the time.
All right. So let's get into our first question. As an Able player, have you ever had significant trouble with projectile-heavy characters? And what was your strategy for training against that? This question's from David.
David, that's a very good question. Able has trouble against projectiles, just like every other character does. Once fire from my hands, Ryu throws it, and you have to deal with it now. You have to block it, or you have to focus it, or you have to jump it. You have to do something, is the idea. Now, Abel has one extra option. He could roll through it. Also, COD goes kind of far, so if it's a regular fireball, I could see it and do EX, change of direction. But that still doesn't mean that fireballs are any easier for me to get around. Not precisely. I would say that, of course, I had a lot of trouble dealing with it, but dealing with fireballs is the same as dealing with any other move. It's a test of your Yomi skills. If you think he's going to throw a fireball, then jump towards him. It's really that simple. Because then you get a combo if you did throw it. Now, if you think that's too risky, then what you're going to have to do is get around fireballs on the ground, of which there's really only 2 ways. One is just walk forward until he throws it, then block it. 2 is try to hit him during the startup of the fireball. If you think he's going to throw it, choose that moment to throw a normal out. This is, of course, assuming you're in range, and hit him before he throws it out. But beyond that, the only other way around fireballs is to go through them or to jump over them. And that's particularly why Ryu Honda was such a bad match in Street Fighter 2, because the only way that Honda had to go through them was to jump them. He couldn't do anything else about them. So he pretty much just had to be psychic. If you happen to play one of those characters that gives you one of those nice options of going through a fireball, good for you. But basically, if Ryu stops throwing fireballs, what now? You can't go through fireballs. So can you beat the Ryu player who doesn't throw any fireballs? And that's projectiles in general. Guile's even harder because he's got Sonic Boom that recovers really, really fast. So it's going to depend on the projectile character we're talking about here. Abel definitely has problems with all of them, but that's where the player's skill comes into play. If I know how to get around projectiles, then what they have to do is be really, really good with their zoning game and their projectile game. Otherwise, they won't be able to keep me out, and I'll get my offense going. And it should be the same with any character. Just the general tip against projectile users is walk forward and block a lot.
Okay, walk forward and block a lot.
Yes, if you want to take the risk, go for the jump in, or use one of your moves that goes through it if you have one. There's really no other way around, but you have to guess right, is what it is. just like with a lot of other things in this game.
Okay,
Good question, though.
Yeah, that was really good question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I like this one too. The next question is from Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to know if it's true that some pros practice very little, because he's saying that he's asking, do they practice quite a bit at one point, so now they don't need to practice as much anymore?
I think I know what he's talking about. Well, Wayne, it's kind of a yes and no, because what it really comes down to is once you've learned the game, once you know how the game works, you don't have to practice learning mechanics anymore. Once you know the mechanics and how to implement them, the only thing you have to practice is you can try to improve your reaction time, you can shore up some of those combos, you can do like 20 times in a row, you've done 30. And learning matchup information, but that's really all there is to learn. Once you get to the point where you know the game, there's not much more to learn, so all that's left is memorization and muscle memory is what it is. And so, to that extent, players who know the game, players like myself, probably, I can't really speak for other players, but I'm assuming that Justin Wong doesn't go to training mode trying to learn new things too much. Because he knows a lot of what could possibly happen, because he knows a lot of the characters and things like that. But he will still go into training mode, and I will still go into training mode to practice combos. Maybe we had an idea for maybe a particular mind game or a particular setup, so we said, I'm going to go into training mode, and I'm going to see if this works. I mean, it doesn't matter what level of player you are, you should always be practicing. But you might consider practice to be casuals with your friends, as opposed to training mode. So pros, because of their ubiquity, get to play other pros all the time. If I go into, there's a stream for the Peaceful J stream, on the front of SRK, and if I go into the chat, I can ask to go into the stream, and they'll probably let me in.
Of course they would.
And it's the same thing with Lamer Boy and a handful of other really good players. So if I want to play someone, I pretty much can, and that's online. I mean, in real life, it's a little bit tougher, but the idea is, when you get to that point, you can play real people almost whenever you want. If you can't play real people whenever you want, then you're going to have to play online or use training mode as a substitute, but you should always be practicing. If you want to be the best, I mean, it's about your work ethic and where you want to be. I want to be the best, so I should keep practicing.
Exactly. I know you practice a lot, don't you?
I do.
All right, so do we have time for another question?
Yeah, one more should be fine.
Okay, last question. This is from Steve. Steve is wondering if they